Hello YouTube, got another oddball here for you, and this is the Stevens Model 101. Now at first it looks like almost like a Stevens favorite, like you would see them, the typical 22, 32 rifles, but it's not. And it's actually this is a smoothbore gun, and it's in a caliber known as 44 XL, or as it says on the top of the barrel, 44 shot. And these guns were made between 1914 and 1920. And as you can see, it's got the typical buttstock, and it goes to 26-inch barrel. And it is a smoothbore. And the shell is actually, a lot of people get confused because it says 44 shot. They don't realize it's really a 44-40 Winchester. And it will shoot regular 44-40 Winchester. You just won't get any accuracy out of it because it is a smoothbore. So what did it shoot? Well, it was known as the 44 XL, which was loaded as it was a shotgun round. This was a shotgun, even though it was a small caliber shotgun compared to what we're used to. And the rounds either had a number 6 charge or number 6 or number 8 shot. And they look like a regular 44-40 shell. They had this almost like a really domey looking hard paper sabot is what it looked like. And inside that was the shell, the shot shell, or the shot cartridge. And they were good basically for what you would shoot a 410 with. And a lot of people might say, well, why not use a 410? When these guns were around between 1914 and 1920, when this particular gun was made, the 410 had not really made an impact here. The 410 was brought out in 1874 by the Ely brothers in England. And it really didn't even get popular over there until 1900. It didn't really start making inroads here until the Great Depression, or right around the time the Great Depression started. Two of the early 410s that I know of that were somewhat successful, or at least sought after now, is the Marlin 410, which came out in the late 1920s, and the Winchester Model 42, which didn't come out until 1933. And the Model 42 was essentially a scaled-down Model 12 pump, and they're very desirable, they're very expensive, and they were considered one of the best, if not to many, the best 410 shotgun ever made. And even over in England, people say, well, gee, because you look at this shell here, and they say, well, it's nothing more like a pest gun or a garden gun. Well, that's what the 410 was considered over there. The 410 was not really that desirable for hunting. They had other guns for that. They had the 16 gauge, they had the 12 gauge. The 20 gauge really hadn't made a splash yet, and really the 20 gauge didn't really make a lot of basically headway until after World War II. So the 410 didn't really make it here until after these guns had stopped production. So again, why would you want something like this? Well, and most people, they look at guns like this and they don't realize, they're looking at it from looking at it for today. They said, well, gee, you could have a 22, or you could have this, and then this, and this. People didn't own guns like that at the time period. People tended to only have 1, maybe 2 guns. They did not have a lot of money to spend, unless you did have money or rich, on 1 or 2 guns. They had 1 gun. This gun was an example of something like that. You could shoot a 44-40 round out of it, which up close, if you got within probably, I haven't shot the standard 44-40 Winchester out of this, but I have shot my own handloads. But a gun like this could be used for everything. You could kill deer with it, because at the time, 44-40 Winchester was still the #1 hunting round in the country when it came to deer. The 30-30 had just come out in 1895. In 1914, it had been around for less than 20 years. It still did not have the numbers that the 44-40 Winchester had, which had been around since 1873. That gun had more time. That gun was still considered the #1 deer killing round. So it was natural to make a shotgun version of this. And that's what they did. And at 15 yards, even with, these are what I load, you can see that's a modern version, and these are not that hard to load, I will tell you right now, versus, like, say, a regular shotgun shell. And that's just basically a 4440 Winchester with, you know, a 44 caliber Spear shot capsule. And that's number 7.5 in it. And I've shot it at 15 yards. And I've shot it at 25 yards. 25 yards would be iffy for a squirrel unless it was, you were dead on and it was right on top of it. At 15 yards, 15 to 20 yards, this will kill a squirrel. Not a problem. And that's with 7.5. I am going to eventually try it with 8-shot to see what the pattern looks like, to see if it's a little better. But this, again, was one of these one guns fits all type of scenarios. And, you know, it is, when it comes to, again, the time period, it would be nothing for somebody to go out and shoot squirrels and shoot rabbits, you know, smaller birds, for, you know, like if you live on a farm or a homestead. That would not at all be anything unusual for this gun. And that's one of the reasons why you don't see a lot of these. I've seen, this is the second or third one I've only ever seen in person. And they tend to either be really trashed or really good condition. This is the first one I would say that's kind of in the middle. The stock's a little beat up on this, but the action works just fine. And the other thing is, too, is the gun is a takedown. And the takedown screw here, because this gun here was actually very, very easy to take the barrel off. I'll do it a little quicker this way. But you had a long screw to help take the barrel down, to help get this done. Because there's your screw once it's out. There's the receiver end. Notice what you can see right here. The barrel simply fits into the sleeve. And there's your barrel end. And there's where the screw would go, right here. Right in the forearm. And that's it. This whole part slides into that receiver end. And that becomes, you know, your gun. And this does not weigh, the whole gun cannot weigh more than 4 pounds. There is nothing to this gun. It's very light. And it breaks open like a typical break-open shotgun, except that this is your hinge. This here is where the whole action takes place. And I noticed, because here's your cam, this is like a long cam. This not only opens it, but this also closes it. And you have to have your hand on the forearm, and this works both. And it's got a simple, you know, typical half-cock safety, full cock, bang, pull the trigger. The only thing I can tell you is you do not have a lot of room for your finger here. Somebody with really larger fingers, you want to be careful with one of these. But it's a very sturdy little gun. And it's just a unique gun. And it's another one of those guns from that time that worked. It did what it needed to do. And it was just one of these unique American guns. It was a uniquely American cartridge. Nobody else used a 44XL. It was a strictly, you don't see any results, you don't see it overseas. They were strictly just something that worked for the time. They didn't make them very long. Stevens made theirs. There's a couple of the I believe H&R was one of the other companies that made theirs as well. But they were not something you saw every day. But they worked for what they did. If you wanted, again, this is a one person, one gun, say on a homestead, a farm. You wanted to do short range. This was not, let's go out, travel the world, and bring, this was for somebody who just lived on one spot. Your typical homesteader, your typical farmer. You know, your person who might be out somewheres, you know, needs to shoot like a squirrel, a rabbit, something they can get to up close, a deer maybe that happens to be close. And that's what it was. It was an economical gun for the time, and it works really well. I am telling you right now, come September, come fall, I do plan on hunting squirrels with this. I will give this a chance to hunt squirrels, because where I hunt up here, most of the time, I've actually had with some of my other shotguns to resist taking a shot because I would have blown a squirrel literally to pieces with a shotgun because they have been so close. I have shot squirrels up here at well under 15 yards with a shotgun, and it definitely have to lead it a little bit just to make sure that only the head gets loaded up with shot and nothing else. And it's just, again, it's just one of those another unique guns you're not going to see very often. So with that said, YouTube, this is the Stevens Model 101, and here again, here's the back half. The Stevens Model 101 in 44 shot, or what they called 44XL. Have a good day.